today, May 11th, 2017 at 7:13 p.m. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Thank you for attending. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The approval of minutes, regular meeting 4/27/17. Approval of minutes, executive, I apologize. Number 3, catch. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I'm putting the cart before the horse. Pleasure of the committee. Motion by Mr. Denon, second by Mr. DeMonica. All in favor? Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Thank you. Approval of minutes, regular meeting 4/27/17. Approval of minutes, executive session 4/27/17. Enrollment report of 5/1/2017. The school police report of 4/1/2017. And the residency truancy report of 5/1/17. Pleasure of the committee. Mr. Fiorillo makes a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Friedman. All in favor? Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the report out of executive session meeting for 5/11/2017. I believe there were no executive session votes, but there was a vote to seal the minutes of the executive sessions. Pleasure of the committee. Mr. Denon makes a motion to seal the minutes. So I have a second. Second by Mr. Fiorillo. All in favor? Ayes have it, 7-0. Next item on the agenda, superintendent's report. Mr. Mitchell.
Mr. Chairman, can you please join me down below?
Yes, thank you.
Forgive me, school committee members, for having my back to you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tina. So we have some very special people that we would like to recognize this evening. And the first individual that I would like to recognize, or we would like to recognize, is Tanya Rayo. Tanya, can you please come up? Tanya, everyone, is the district teacher of the year. So let me explain a little bit how this process works. So every year, right around this time, in every district in the state, every district is asked to identify a teacher that they feel is deserving of this recognition. So what we do is we ask all of our principals to nominate someone that they feel is deserving. And in all truthfulness, it really is a difficult thing to do, to identify a person worthy of this award, because we have a lot of really talented people in this district, and anyone who works in this district knows that. But everyone that knows Tanya knows that she is very deserving of this award. So we, that is the entire administrative team, have an opportunity to hear every principal's nomination, and we decide together who we feel is deserving. And last Friday, and I don't think Tanya knew that it was coming, we had a ceremony at North Cumberland Middle School, and her mom was invited, her husband. was in attendance. It was really nice, and people who were very close to her, and everybody really at North Cumberland Middle School and beyond, because she's also taught at the elementary level as well. Were thrilled that she received this recognition, and I think it's only appropriate that I share some of what Mrs. Coughlin wrote about her, because it's really nice, and I think incredibly accurate. So it is with great pleasure that I write a letter of recommendation for Tanya Rayo for District Teacher of the Year. Tanya has been a social studies teacher at NCMS for 4 years. Her passion for teaching and her ability to affect change have been felt in all positions that she has held. In addition to incorporating her caring and focused approach to her social studies class, Tanya has evolved into a teacher leader, taking on responsibilities that reach far beyond her classroom. Currently, she is a Thinking Maps trainer for the school, a member of the school improvement team, a member of the district standards-based grading committee, an SRSD trainer for grade 8, and the go-to person for all social studies teachers when aligning curriculum and instruction to best practice. Although Tanya's involvement in school and district committees is impressive, the true impact of Tanya's talent and passion occurs in the classroom. Tanya's approach with all students is to provide a caring and safe learning environment that is rooted in high expectations. She is consistently found with a student by her side, whether it be in the morning, at lunch, during her free period, or in the afternoon. Many times she is working with students to improve their work, but quite often she is engaged in conversation, giving advice or support, or simply enjoying lunch together. Her caring and loving nature resonates as many former students continue to seek out advice and support from Mrs. Rayo even after they leave NCMS. And it is for all of these reasons and many more that Tanya is a very deserving district teacher of the year for the town of Cumberland. So Tanya is recognized on a district plaque, the Cumberland School Department District Teacher of the Year plaque. Her name will, in fact, it's already on the plaque, and it will hang proudly in the main foyer of this building. And we also have a really nice plaque that is given to Tanya that says Cumberland School Department 2017 District Teacher of the Year, presented to Tanya Rayo in recognition of your inspirational actions and excellence in educational leadership. Congratulations. Marianne, can you please come up? I think everybody knows Marianne Roll. And Marianne is the director of the Cumberland School Volunteers and is actively involved in literacy in the district and has been for many years. In fact, Marianne has been the director for the last 17 years, since 2000. And coincidentally, and I'm sure everybody knows this, Marianne is retiring this year. And in addition to her retirement this year, this is also the 50th anniversary of this organization. So just a couple of observations on my part, based on my observation of Marianne and the work that she has done here over the last 17 years, and you know, as As far as my experience in the district goes, over the last 5 years, I get a chance to see Marianne on a regular basis. We have had many conversations about many things, including literacy, but she's also a member of the Lincoln School Department, and we've had many conversations about education and educational leadership. And here's the bottom line for me. There is no such thing as a strong organization without strong leadership. And it is crystal clear to me that the reason this organization, the Cumberland School Volunteers, is as successful as it is because of Marianne's commitment, her passion for helping children improve and love their reading, and she's just totally dedicated to this cause. So I think the plaque really captures how we feel about Marianne. Cumberland School Department presented to Marianne Rowe an appreciation for your 17 years of dedication, inspiration, and leadership in instilling a love of reading for the students of Cumberland. So on behalf of the school committee and everyone that you have touched in some way by your work, we thank you.
So I want to thank you for this very much. I have very mixed feelings about this transition. Most people don't retire from a part-time job. My full-time job was as a mom, and so I did retire to a part-time job when my son was a senior in high school and my daughter was a senior in college. And it was supposed to be a short stint. I thought 5-7 years till my husband figured out what he was going to do for retirement. And unfortunately, life does throw you curveballs. And so when my husband passed away in 2008, and I say this very honestly to people because it is so true, that the work I've had the opportunity to do here in Cumberland saved my life. Two things are important: family and a little bit of work. And I have enjoyed this so much. I will miss my friends in the garden level very much. I'll miss my conversations with Mr. Prignano very much. I will miss all of the wonderful people that I've had the opportunity to work with in the town of Cumberland. And I have to, on behalf of the Cumberland School Volunteers Board of Directors, thank you for the support of the Cumberland School Department, because, Mr. Mitchell, leadership without resources goes nowhere. And so the support that we've received from the district over the years is the reason we can buy over 3,300 books every year and put them in the hands of kids at 3 schools. And in those 3 schools, there are so many children who would never get a book to own of their own. Their personal library begins with RIF, and so it's been our pleasure to be able to do that, and we're committed to continuing that. And the other program that I think maybe some of you are familiar with is Just Friends. I did that program the first year I took this position because I needed to understand it. And I've learned that the 4th graders really are empathetic, compassionate, caring children. And that, like all of us, they have fears of the unknown and things that are different, people who are different. And if you have a chance to have a conversation with them about those issues, you can make a difference in their lives and in the lives of their peers and other children and people in their community. So I thank you very much for the opportunity I've had here in Cumberland. I envy this program. If I could figure out how to get it into Lincoln, I would. It makes a difference not only for the volunteers in school, but eventually in your community. It makes it a better place to live. And so I am grateful. Thank you so much.
And last but not least, we wanted to have Dr. Rosemary Riley Shamat come before the school committee this evening to just talk about this organization that she and others from the town of Cumberland are working hard to establish, the Cumberland Education Foundation. So I'm going to have Dr. Riley Shamat come up to the podium and share some information about some upcoming events and what they hope will happen. And I can just share some information based on my personal experience with organizations such as this. So without further ado, Dr. Riley Shamat.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Salvatore, for the opportunity to share about the Cumberland Education Foundation. I'm really delighted to be here, and I'm even more delighted to be here on the night that Tanya and Marianne are recognized, such wonderful, wonderful educators in our town, and really this is what we're all about. So imagine a town where learning is a priority for everyone, from children to grandparents, a place where learning is a core component of the town's culture, where a dedicated group of townspeople are committed to raising families, growing business, embracing our natural landscape, and continuously learning and developing. A place where the town bands together to give everyone opportunities to grow and capitalizes on its existing resources by bringing together key stakeholders to make a difference. This vision was originally conceived by the Cumberland Townwide Learning, an initiative that grew out of a district strategic planning effort back in 2008. And Mrs. Friedman was a part of that. I know that you recognized those words by your smile. Education is the key to make this a reality. Through public-private partnerships and broad community engagement, we can help shape and offer an exemplary public educational experience and empower the community as a whole. This is still the vision for Cumberland and the mission of the Cumberland Education Foundation. Founded in 2016, the Cumberland Education Foundation is a nonprofit, tax-exempt organization acting independently from the school district for the sole benefit of the district's students. The Cumberland Education Foundation will promote excellence in Cumberland schools through two pathways. The first is providing grants to teachers and staff for innovative, high-quality programs that enhance and enrich the educational experience, and the second, by awarding scholarships to Cumberland High graduating seniors seeking to further their education. I am here to extend a personal invitation to our first fundraising event on Monday, May 22nd, 2017, from 5:30 to 7:30 at Venue 131 on Menden Road in Cumberland. On behalf of the board, we hope you can join us for some appetizers and hear firsthand about Cumberland Education Foundation's vision and engage individuals and businesses in this most important endeavor for youth. A fall harvest gala is also in the early planning stages and will offer an enjoyable and memorable experience for everyone. An adult spelling bee is also part of our future planning, and there's also a really wonderful article today in the Valley Breeze. And I just wanted to share with you the names of the other board members. So Kristen Sukatos is the vice president. Matthew Newman is the secretary. Michael Weber is the treasurer. Lisa Bolio, Jason Costa, Heidi Henderson, Amy Neary, and Armand Pires join me on the board. So we hope that you can join us on Monday night. And I've brought some flyers for you, so you'll have it tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. We're really, really excited.
Dr. Schmont, excellent. Looking forward to attending the event, and I've been broadcasting it on Facebook as well. So, any questions from the committee? Thank you again, Mr. Mitchell.
I was just going to add that I'm familiar with an organization like this based on my experience at Charahoe. Charahoe started in 2000. In fact, the organization is called Community 2000, and it has raised a significant amount of money and gives really like impressive scholarships on a yearly basis. And they also provide grants for innovative projects in classrooms and that sort of thing. And it's a pretty sizable amount of money. It is competitive, but wonderful support for some of the more creative things that teachers want to do in their classrooms. And the same is true with Westerly. Westerly has the Westerly Education Endowment Fund, and it's based on the same principle and provides the same kinds of opportunities for students through scholarships and also for teachers through grants to support creative initiatives in the classroom. So I'm really excited about this. I know that, and I will do whatever I can to support it. And I know that although Rosemary is a very busy person, as are all of the other people involved in this organization, and there's some really impressive people, as you all know, involved. I'm really excited, and we'll do anything I can to support this. So we wish you well, and thank you for taking on this responsibility. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next item on the agenda is the chairperson's report. Summary of town tax levy formula presentation. As this is tied into the budget from the town, Mr. Pregiano, could you please step up to the microphone and give us an update in regards to the mayor's budget, the levy?
Yeah, I think as far as the tax levy piece of it, I mean, everyone was pretty much at the meetings. The towns raised the tax levy 4% this year because I guess there was an accrual 60-day rule that wasn't accounted for. Unfortunately, 3.8% of that rate went to the town, and the district will get 0.2% of that levy. Probably be about $50-something thousand. So we should amend our budget at some point and decide whether we're going to reduce healthcare claims or some type of thing to reflect receiving that money. And the other piece of it, the chairman called me today, asked me kind of just to talk to the finance director and confirm what we think was is in the mayor's budget. And he confirmed to me that the 4%, $1,676,000 that we request is there. We had also asked them to provide $400,000 for capital like they used to, back in 2006 for buildings and capital improvements. And so what they're actually going to do is they're going to pay for our master leases. Now we'll pay for those master leases, and then they'll reimburse us, because if they just pay for them, it'll bring our per student expenses even lower, because you take $400,000 of expenses out of our budget. So to be accurate with that, we're going to work it that way. And then they have supposedly they've done they're doing a retrofit with street lights, putting in LED lamps and that sort of stuff, and they're going to be eligible for some type of rebate in the area of about $300,000. They're not sure when that will be in. They feel for sure it'll be in before next June, a year from now, and they're also going to provide that to the school department. So all in all, it'll be about $2.2 million, which is, I don't think anyone remembers ever seeing that type of money for the town. And so, that's where we are right now. If you recall, the budget we sent down, restoring all the positions that the superintendent, when he submitted a balanced budget, had taken out. We were asking for an additional $1,339,000 on top of that $1,600,000. So we're not at $3 million. We're at more like $2.2 million. So there's still some work that we're going to be doing over the next few weeks to make up that $700,000-800,000.
Mr. Pregiano, thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Okay. I would like to recognize Town Council Member Scott Schmidt, front row of the audience. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt, for attending. I would like to mention that there are 4 meetings coming up. The first 3 are at Joseph L. McCourt Middle School. The first one is May 17th, a Finance Subcommittee meeting, 6 p.m., public hearing. The second one is Wednesday, May 17th. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the same. same date, but the finance one starts at 6 p.m. and the public hearing starts at 7:30 p.m. So there's 3 dates. The next one after that is Wednesday, May 31st, which is the second public hearing and the first vote in regards to the budget. And then the last one is Wednesday, June 7th, which is 7:30 p.m., which is the final vote. And it's important to note that one is back at the Bonner Junior Council Chambers at the Town Hall. So these are important dates that we'd like to have a good following of people show up again and recognize their support because it's been extremely dynamic up to this point. So, and we're very appreciative of that. Next item is update on pre-budget consultation and 3-year forecasting with Cumberland Town Council. We're going to skip that one. This is, to my fault, I left this back on the agenda by accident, so we're all up to date on that one. Next item on the agenda is the reports of standing committees, payment of bills. Mr. DeModica.
Mr. Chairman, fiscal did meet upstairs and we went over the register and we voted on a 3-0 vote to approve payment of the bills of $1,166,522.84, and I would make that in a motion to approve payment of the bills.
Thank you, Mr. DeModica. Mr. DeModica has a motion on the floor for the approval of payment of bills in the amount of $1,166,522.89, 84 cents. Thank you, Mr. Fiorillo, right there to help me out. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Fiorillo. All in favor? Ayes have it, 7-0. Mr. DeModica, next item on the agenda, Fiscal Management Subcommittee update.
Mr. Chairman, fiscal had a discussion with the business office. We got the latest budget summary report. We are, with all the, I don't want to say cuts, but the fact that we have held back spending money in different programs, we are projected at this moment to maybe have a surplus depending on healthcare at the end of the year, which would be nice for that. And we also got an update on how the healthcare is done in regards to setting the rate. And finally, we have a resolution that approves some spending for some SRSD strategy things that are going on in the district. And that was our agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeModica. Next item on the agenda is Policy and Procedures Subcommittee update. Mr. Fiorillo.
Chairman, policy did meet this past week, or the other day. We discussed, primarily we discussed student residency and school attendance areas and boundary lines. Some slight changes were made to J17 student residency, which we will be approving later. And I'll discuss that more in detail at that time. Although the school attendance area and boundary lines was tabled for a future meeting. We also discussed some school committee policies, B2 and B3, just a general discussion about what is expected of school committee members. And we're trying to actually have a little more transparency for the public as far as what our stipends are, when it's paid, that sort of thing. Right now, I know town council, it's a matter of ordinance, so we feel that it should be a matter of policy for us. That's I guess that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Fiorillo. Next item on the agenda, Achievement and Communications Subcommittee update. Mr. Denon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Achievement and Communications Subcommittee has not met since we last met as a full committee, but we're hoping to meet within the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Denon. Next item on the agenda, comments from the public. Would anyone like to step up to the microphone? Mr. Connolly? No? Thank you. Next item on the agenda, public hearing, reading of policy J17 student residency. Mr. Fiorillo.
I would ask that student residency be read into the amended version of J17 student residency be read into the record. And also J18 was tabled, so we don't need to discuss that.
Thank you, Mr. Fiorillo. So J18 school attendance areas boundary lines. Okay, J17 student residency being read into the record for the first reading. And item number 2, J18 is no action. I would like to open up public comment in regards to J17 and J18. Would anybody like to come up to the microphone to speak on this? Hearing none, we'll call that closed at 7:43. Next item on the agenda is new business. Discussion and a vote to approve overnight student field trip. Grade 7 middle school students, Washington, D.C. for November 2017. There we go, Mr. Conley and Mrs. Coughlin. Please come up to the microphone.
Hello. I'm Sean Connolly. I teach 7th grade social studies at North Cumberland Middle School. I was actually a student of Beth Coughlin here not too long ago. I've been asked by Beth in the past year to help run the Washington, D.C. trip. And I just wanted to stand in front of you at this moment to kind of recap our trip this past year. We ended up going November 10th through November 13th of 2016. So that was a Thursday that we left in the morning, and then Veterans Day was the following day. So it was a really nice trip. We were very, very fortunate this year. We traveled with Jump Street, which is a company that we happened to use for the Quebec trip in January, and it worked out really well. Students seemed to have a great time for the most part. We had about just over 100 kids from North Cumberland Middle School, and then we had 40 from McCourt Middle School who traveled with us. So we had 3 motor coaches. Had a lot of fun traveling on the bus. It's always a good experience with the kids going down, and they're psyched about it. They have never seen their national capital for the most part, most of the kids. So when we got there, we ended up starting, sightseeing. We saw a lot of memorials ranging from Iwo Jima to World War II, the Vietnam, the Korean War Memorial, which are all covered in our curriculum in 7th grade. So it was nice for them to actually appreciate those memorials. They got to tour Mount Vernon. They toured the Capitol grounds. And it was a very exciting time for them because the election had just happened. Originally we had some concerns about that, but it ended up going really well. Jump Street cooperated with us. So I'm very excited for this year's upcoming trip. We're going to be traveling. Our proposed travel dates are from Friday, November 10th through, and then Monday, November 13th. So, and the holiday falls on a Saturday, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the school department is going to celebrate it on Monday the 13th this upcoming year. So we're looking forward to it. So I'm going to turn it over to Beth at this moment.
Mr. Connolly, when you leave on Friday the 10th, what time? Okay. Excellent. Excellent. All right, thank you. Mrs. Coughlin?
The details of the trip were presented to you, and one of the additional steps that we created in preparation and planning for the trip is that we did put out an interest form to parents, because in the past we have exceeded the number of seats initially upon registration, but students tend to back off, and every year we're able to make it work. But rather than having that question or that concern, we did put out an interest form, and the results that we received was within the number of buses that we anticipate reserving. So we are confident that problem will be resolved for this coming year. And we request approval for this trip.
Thank you, Mrs. Coughlin. Any questions from the committee? Mr. DeMonica?
Mr. Conley, what year did you have Mrs. Coughlin as a teacher? Mr. Chairman, I would move passage.
Mr. DeMonica is moving passage. Second by Mr. Denon. All in favor? Ayes have it, 7-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Great trip. We're looking forward to the follow-up. Next item on the agenda, discussion and/or vote to approve amended policies. J17, student residency, and J18, we'll stick with the first one, J17. Mr. Fiorillo?
J17, student residency. Some of the changes that we made were very minor, really just more sentence structure. Others, though, we actually gave examples of what would be accepted as proof of residency, as well as we laid out what kind of paperwork that a guardian would have to provide to enroll their student in a Cumberland school. There was also some discussion about the very final part of this policy, which talks about tuition for non-residents. There's a new program in the state which would allow us to offer, if we offered a pathway that another town did not offer at their high school, they would be able to send their student to our school and pay a tuition. We're going to deal with that at a later date. We need to get some more information, I think, from RIDE regarding that, and we'll deal with that in the future. However, the changes that we have made just tighten up the residency requirements a little bit, and I would move passage.
Okay. Pleasure of the committee. So, Mr. Fiorillo has a motion on the floor for passage of J17, second by Mr. Denon. All in favor? Ayes have it, 7-0. Next item, J18, Mr. Fiorillo.
J18 was tabled. There's going to be a lot of amendments to the policy, and we just want to be able to take our time with it. It will be on the agenda at the next meeting, which should be in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Fiorillo. Next item on the agenda, discussion and/or vote to approve home school instruction requests for 2017-2018 school year. Mrs. Fogel or Mr. Mitchell.
Mr. Salvatore, I would recommend approval with one minor change to this particular item on the agenda. It's actually for 2016-17. It's not 2017.
Ask you, Mr. Mitchell. So I've got a quick question. So it's for this year that we're in, correct? Okay. Yep, Mr. DeMonica.
Mr. Mitchell, why is this coming in so late? Is this a transfer into the district? Do we know?
No, in all honesty, Mr. DeMonica, I don't have the specifics on that. I mean, this is usually handled through the assistant superintendent's office, and as you can see, Mr. DeMonica isn't here this evening, so I don't have the answer to that question. I apologize.
Okay. Pleasure of the committee. Mr. Fiorillo makes a motion to approve the request as amended. That states 2016/17. Mr. Denon?
Second for discussion.
Mr. Denon seconds for discussion.
I just have a question. The issue is with the agenda, not the agenda. Do we need to amend our agenda?
Mr. Adams?
Open Meetings Act is meant to protect the public from committees that have gone awry and are trying to get away with something. Here, the only people who would have an interest in this action really would be the people who are the subjects of the requests for homeschooling. So this may sound silly and result-oriented, but from my perspective, if the committee's inclined to grant the requests, it's kind of a no harm, no foul. I mean, there's a technical thing, but I don't see it as a big enough deal to worry about.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
I'll take the heat, right?
Thank you, Mr. Adams. All in favor? Ayes have it, 7-0. Next item on the agenda, discussion and a vote to approve resolution SC PR 5 2017-04. Thinkum LLC support services for self-regulated strategy development, SD. Sorry, Mr. Mitchell, you even said that to us upstairs.
Self-regulated strategy development.
There we go. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this was heard
It took
in
me
fiscal.
2 years to learn
Mr.
that.
DeMonica.
It was heard in fiscal. It's for the school district. It's budgeted in the assistant superintendent's budget line item, and it's a resolution to award the contract to Thinkum of Wellesley, Mass. for support services for grades 4 and 7 for the amount not to exceed $10,110, and I would move passage.
Thank you, Mr. DeMonica. Mr. DeMonica is seeking passage for SCPR 5 2017-04, not to exceed $10,110. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Hess. All in favor? Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, personnel recommendations. Thank you, Mrs. Fogel. Next item on the agenda, school committee comments, school liaison reports. Pleasure of the committee. Mr. Fiorillo.
I should have mentioned it while we were voting on the resolution for SRSD. I just want to say that it's a great program. It's really moved our writing proficiency in this district. It was originally piloted at BF, and it had immediate results. It's a great program. Also, I just want to recognize Marianne Roll, who I first got to know Marianne when I was starting to do RIF several years ago. She has been a tireless director of the volunteers, and she will be greatly missed.
Thank you, Mr. Fiorillo. I would like to expand on that a little bit. Marion Roll is not only a major asset to Cumberland and will be missed, but she is a very strong school committee member in Lincoln. And I can tell of one story, I think last year or a couple years ago, where I was almost bounced out of the school committee meeting in Lincoln, trying to, Paul was there, advocating for the children of this district and for the children of Lincoln in regards to the Merrill Academy. So she's been a strong ally and a great advocate for children, not over here in Cumberland, but also in Lincoln as well. And Marianne, thank you for your support and your tenure. And somebody's gonna have big shoes to fill. So we may bring you in as an independent consultant, and we'll buy you breakfast. All right. Anybody else?
Chair?
Mr. Denon.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that a couple weeks ago, a bunch of us went to the State House. Actually, it was just last week, to testify for one of the bills that the General Assembly is considering related to charter funding. And I appreciate the committee's efforts on that bill. And also, Mr. Mitchell testified for the school start time bill, which was, the discussion around that was great. It convinced me, not that I needed convincing, but it's a no-brainer that we should make school start later. Mr. Mitchell, I appreciate your testimony and your time. So the hearing that was a couple weeks ago at the House, I think the rest of the committee left, but when I stayed for more of the meeting, and Marianne Roll was there. And I think you may have missed her testimony, but when they introduced her as a member of the Lincoln School Committee, but she got down, I got to the table and said, "I'm here as a friend of Cumberland." And she testified on our behalf to help us out. And I appreciate that very much, Marianne. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're on our side. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Denon. Mrs. Friedman?
I'd also like to recognize Mayor Murray and Town Councilor Kane and Town Councilor Bolio for also being at the House of Representatives and speaking in support of House Bill 5980. So it was great, and people provided written testimony as well. So I think it made a big impact to show a united front going in front of the House of Reps that night too.
Thank you, Mrs. Friedman. Mrs. Goggin, we're going to go right down the line.
I just wanted to say a couple words about Mrs. Rayo too, and how happy I was for her. I've been fortunate, 2 of my kids had her in 1st grade and 8th grade. She tells us at open house she'll treat them like her own, and she does, and she's supportive and even inspiring to one of mine who needed some inspiration.
Great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne, too, for all you've done.
Chairman, I
Mr.
just want to
DeMonica.
congratulate Mr. Fiorello for his appointment for the Rhode Island Association of School Committees. I know Mrs. Roll was on there as well, and so now you got some bigger shoes to fill. And congratulations. So I guess our committee has completed all the leadership classes that are offered to the school committee members, and so it's well deserved. Thank you.
Mr. DeMonica, I believe you and Mr. Fiorillo have made master. You as well, Mr. Denny? No? Okay, so Mr. Fiorillo, excellent. Mr. Hess, anything to add? We've gone right across. We're going to recycle it right up. Oh, no problem. All right, thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda, Mr. Mitchell, executive session.
We're all set, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent, thank you. Next item on the agenda, a motion to adjourn. Mr. Fiorillo makes a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Friedman. All in favor? Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.